Hi, everybody. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, Texas, on Friday, June the 20th, and welcome to our commentary. I guess June the 20th means the first day of summer. So let me wish all of you a happy summer day, happy beginning of summer day. But I have I'm sure, a friend down in Argentina. This is not summer for them. This is actually, I think, the beginning of their maybe the beginning of their winter, isn't it? Or I think so. I think the beginning of winter because they've got everything reversed. So, happy Winter Day to my friends in Argentina. But up here, it's summer, and of course, if you live in Texas, you know what that means. It's going to be really hot. Or this is the beginning of what we like to call the very hot season, and it gets very hot here. June, July, and especially between July 15th and August 15th, that's when it really gets hot. And it gets very hot. So if you know anything about Texas, if you visit Texas between July 15th and August 15th, make sure your friend has a swimming pool at their house or apartments or whatever. And if you stay at a hotel, usually they have a swimming pool. So the best thing to do is make sure you bring a bathing suit because you're going to use it. In Texas, you're going to use your bathing suit from mid-July to probably Labor Day. I mean, Labor Day is kind of the end of summer around here. Not officially, I know, but with the kids going back to school and all of that, it kind of works out that way. So happy first day of summer to everybody in the country today. Well, we're in those 2 weeks that President Trump talked about. He mentioned yesterday that he was going to give this thing 2 weeks. As I said yesterday, I don't think that means 14 days or 7 business days plus more 7 business days. I think these 14 days could be tonight. I mean, there could be an attack tonight, or there could be maybe more than 2 weeks. Because I believe what's happening is, and this is just a gut feeling of mine based on negotiations that I've seen over the years. I believe that the Israelis and the United States, that we have information that there's something going on within Iran, maybe some forces, some military forces who are ready to break ranks and go against the current government. And that, I think, is what's going on here. Now, frankly, I think that would be a great solution. If we could find an internal solution to this problem, something along the lines of, hey, we get rid of the current leadership, we get them out of the country, and we replace it with leadership that is more in tune with reality. And then we say, okay, we're going to dismantle these nuclear facilities and we'll work with the UN or the United States or whatever to make sure that they are dismantled. And then we're going to focus on the greatness of Iran, an amazing country, great people, tremendous resources. I mean, they have more oil than I mean, I don't know how much they have compared to other countries, but they got a lot. They don't need nuclear power, believe me, they don't. And certainly they have a lot of talent too. The people of Iran are just absolutely amazing people. So everything is on the table, ready to go. All you need is better leadership. And if they can arrange that within Iran, meaning without a military attack from the United States, if they can do it, then that would be the best solution, in my opinion. That would be the best solution. And I hope that that is, in fact, what works out. And then we can all have a press conference sometime over the next few weeks where President Trump and a future leader of Iran have a press conference and they talk about this new arrangement, and everything can get back to a better situation. I hope so. I really hope that's what happens. Now, there could be a military option. I'm not discounting that. There could be a military option, and President Trump is more than capable of saying go. And this, all I can tell you is that based on the way President Trump treated ISIS in his first term, on the way he killed Soleimani and other leaders of Al-Qaeda or ISIS, if Trump says go, this is going to be a massive, and I mean massive, a military attack like nothing we've ever seen before. Now, these bombs that we'll be using, these bunker buster bombs, they go back They go back to the Reagan years, or not these particular bombs, but the idea of bunker buster bombs. They go back to Reagan and Bush and Bush. I mean, I remember talking about that stuff back when the second Bush was in the White House, and there was some talk of, you know, things that were hiding underground. So these bombs are ready to go, and they're very good at what they do. And I'm pretty sure there's a military plan to be carried out that would be very effective. It's going to be primarily an air operation. There may be some special forces on the ground to make sure that the damage was done. And hopefully it'll be very soon. It'll be over with soon. But as I said before, it might be better if there was a change from within. And then that way we don't have to play the military card. You know, we can just put that one back on the shelf. Well, another big story, of course, is what happened between President Trump and the governor of California. He decided to challenge the legality of President Trump. That means the governor of California decided to challenge the legality of the president with respect to federalizing the California Guard. And, you know, you could see this coming. You knew that he was going to run to a judge in San Francisco who was going to write the opinion that he wrote. The whole thing was so predictable that you could see it coming. Then it goes to a court of appeals. Now, normally, the court of appeals, that would be number 9th in the 9th district, that's usually pretty good for the Democrats. It's when they come to the 5th district here in Texas, that's when it's more favorable to the Republicans. But anyway, so they should have gotten, you know, they should have gotten at least one vote in the 9th district court of appeal, but they got none. It was a unanimous 3-0 decision in favor of Trump. And clearly the 3 judges, 2 Republicans and 1 Democrat, bought the argument from President Trump that not only did he have the authority to do this, but he also had to do this. And I think that's what must be really embarrassing for Governor Newsom, that basically the judges, again, 3 of them, 1 of them a Democrat, bought the argument from President Trump that the city of LA and the state of California could not protect ICE agents, or frankly, cannot protect federal buildings. Frankly, they cannot even protect their own people. That's how bad things are out there. And they bought the argument and they said, yes, he can have the guard. He can have the guard. I mean, that's not the issue. So it's a big victory politically, you might say, for President Trump. It's a huge defeat for the governor of California because, as I say, the opinions came down very hard on him. It's a defeat for the judge who wrote this opinion. I think I mentioned 3 or 4 days ago when I first saw that opinion that it read a lot like a political statement talking about we're not a nation of kings and all that kind of stuff. That's not the kind of stuff you want to read in a judicial opinion. I mean, the judges should stick to whatever the constitutionality of it is and stay away from political rhetoric. So I think that bad opinion, that very politicized opinion, by the way, by the judge in San Francisco probably hurt the governor when it went to appeals. And let me tell you something else too, that some other victory that came out of this. I think another big winner out of this opinion that these 3 judges wrote, another big winner is future presidents, because future presidents have been given some very clear guidance of how to federalize the state guard in a particular state or national guard. So I think overall is a big victory for common sense. That's what I conceive it to be or see it to be. And, you know, it's a good deal for President Trump and those of us who feel that California was playing politics with this whole issue. I've got a post at the American Thinker today talking about this whole idea that there is a civil war in the Republican Party. That there's a lot of arguments within the Republican Party. And as I write in my post, yes, there are some differences in the Republican Party. A lot of Republicans don't want to have a military intervention in Iran. That's true. We cannot deny that. I still think Trump is going to get most of the support from the Republicans. But yes, there are some who oppose it for whatever reason. But the real civil war and the real problem, or the party with a real problem and some serious concerns, is the Democrat Party. Not only are they deeply divided, but now we find out they're kind of running out of cash. In fact, they may have to borrow money just to run the DNC for the rest of the year. And the basic reason, as I point out in my article, is that a lot of the people who write the big checks, are not writing them right now. And that's because they're very concerned about this craziness going on in the Democrat Party, where you've got, people out there like Janine or Jasmine Crockett, this representative, and AOC, and lots of other people just making a lot of foolish statements and not really resolving any of the problems that the country has, or sitting down and trying to resolve them. And I think a lot of the big time donors are saying, wait a minute, we're not going to be a part of this. All we're going to do is waste our money. So it is really the Democrats who are in the middle of a civil war, potentially dividing the party in a very bitter way. And that's what my post is about today over at the American Thinker. I do have a post coming out tomorrow about what's happening in the Women's Basketball League. Now, in the interest of full disclosure, I don't follow that league that much. It's one of the consequences of having three sons. I mean, when you have three boys, you have three sons, they don't tend to follow a lot of women's sports. Growing up, I had a brother. My brother and I were big into team sports, baseball, football, that kind of thing. So we never really got into women's sports. I've never really been a fan of any women's sports. I mean, maybe a little ice skating. That's a very nice thing to watch. Or maybe sometimes in the Olympics, some of the women's events like swimming or whatever, those things are fun to watch. But overall, like the WNBA, I don't follow that league, never have. But it's been very difficult lately to avoid what's happening in the WNBA, because you have a bunch of young women who seem to be fighting with each other all the time. Every time I see a clip of the WNBA, I see some girl punching Caitlin Clark, this poor girl who is the most important player that the league has. Without Caitlin Clark, nobody would watch their games. In fact, nobody was watching their games before Caitlin Clark became a player in the WNBA. But they're beating up this girl like crazy. Every time they have a game, you show the clips on the internet, somebody's beating up on this poor young woman, Caitlin Clark. And what my post argues is that maybe she ought to just get out of the WNBA and start her own league. I'm pretty sure she can get enough players to have 2 or 3 teams and have, even if you just play around the country, more people would see you, whether in person or in TV, than are watching the league right now. I mean, the league just doesn't get an audience unless she's playing. So, they're treating Caitlin Clark awfully bad. I think these young women who play in that league should take a look at Caitlin Clark and say, hey, this is our meal ticket. We go nowhere without this young woman. But it seems like they're always beating her up and pushing her around. And it goes beyond competitive sports. I know that sports can be passionate and all of that. That's to a point. That's true. But this goes really beyond that. There's a pettiness and an envy here toward Caitlin Clark that I think is killing the league. And again, Caitlin, you've got more than enough talent, and I'm sure you can get at least 20 girls to join you, and you can come up with a couple of teams or 3 teams or whatever, and they do tours of the country. And I think you would get enough people to watch your games on TV as well as in person, and you could put the WNBA out of business. I really believe that. Well, on this day in history, here's an interesting one. You've heard that song, Almost Heaven, West Virginia. That's that song by John Denver, Take Me Home Country Roads. Well, on this day in 1863, the state of West Virginia was formed, and it happened in the middle of the Civil War. Interesting story about that. Sometime I'll tell you that story. But the state of West Virginia was created today in 1863. They happened to be number 35 on the way to 50. And then, of course, many years later, John Denver wrote that song, Almost Heaven, West Virginia. What a great line that is. Almost Heaven, West Virginia. Well, I'm not sure if it's almost heaven, but if you've ever driven in West Virginia, I think you can understand what inspired John Denver. It is a beautiful state. I mean, just an absolutely beautiful state. And I'm not sure if it's almost heaven, but it's very, very beautiful. Thanks for watching. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye, everybody.